So in accordance with Governor J.B. Pritzker's Executive Orders 2020-07 and 2020-39 stated that provisions of the Open Meetings Act are suspended to include allowing members of a public body to be physically present during a meeting, as well as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's recommendation of social distancing of at least 6 feet between persons. City Hall is only open to the public with capacity and social distancing restrictions Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. To fulfill the requirements and recommendations and to comply with the Open Meeting Act for the Advisory Committee on Police Community Relations that meets at 5:30 p.m., the public may email comments to me by 4 p.m. October 7th, 2020. The notice and agenda are posted on the city's website.
All right, thank you, Christina, for reading that. Now, can you move forward with performing our roll call, please?
Yes, Dr. Ali, Andre Allen,
Present.
Demario Boone,
Here.
Shalandra Birch,
Present.
Terry Burnside, Allison Galvin, Nina Gugis, Nikolai Greaves, Lorene King,
Present.
Chief Marion,
Here.
Megan Nguyen, Tyson Parks,
Present.
Karen Wilson, Janet Zagardo.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Christina. Appreciate that. Also, thank you for sending out the agenda and the minutes from our last meeting. Is there any discussion or correction on the meetings that, or no, excuse me, on the minutes that Christina sent out to us a couple of days ago? If there's not any discussion or corrections suggested for those minutes, I would like to seek a motion to approve those minutes, please.
So moved, Lorene King.
Thank you, Ms. King. Can I get a second?
Second.
To approve those minutes? Second by Chief Boone. Thank you, sir. All right, Christina, if you want to perform our voting roll call, please.
Yes, Andre Allen,
Yes.
Chief Boone,
Yes.
Shalandra Birch,
Yes.
Lorene King,
Yes.
Chief Marion,
Yes.
Tyson Parks,
Yes.
Janet Zagardo.
Yes.
Janet?
Sorry, I was just trying to find my mute button. Thank you. Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Sounds good. Our minutes have been approved. Thank you, Christina, for preparing those and sending those out. Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great week thus far. It's crazy to think that it is October already. Seems like yesterday. The summer lasted, I mean, like a New York minute. And so here we are in October, starting to get cold out. Get your pumpkin spice lattes ready and your turtlenecks near, because it is fall and it'll be winter before you know it. Before we move forward with our meeting and the agenda items that we have set forth, I know we have a few guests tonight that are more than welcome to come anytime to our meeting. We appreciate that. So I think it's appropriate in the welcome section that we just do a brief introduction of everyone who's on the call. Maybe just say your name, where you're from, and what you do. And so that way we can go ahead and do a proper introduction. And so I will pull up the participant list and I'll just call on you so that way you know when it's your turn and we can go ahead and start that welcome. So I'll start first. My name is Andre Allen, originally from Peoria, Illinois. And then I work for Methodist College of Unity Point Health here in Peoria, serving as our Dean of Students. The next person that I will have introduce themselves, I'll go ahead and call on you, Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina. I am the Senior Administrative Assistant for Chief Marion, and I've been with the department about 3 years.
Thank you, Christina. Appreciate it. Shalandra, we'll go ahead and call on you, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Shalandra Birch. I work for the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice, and I am the statewide warrant officer.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Chief Boone.
Demario Boone, Chief of School Safety for Peoria Public Schools.
Thank you, Chief. Pastor Parks.
I'm Tyson Parks. I was appointed to the committee
In 2019, I transferred in from Galesburg, Illinois, and I serve as the pastor for Bethel United Methodist Church here in Peoria.
Thank you, Pastor. Ms. King?
Lorraine King, at-large representative for the 3rd District, retired from the University of Illinois and Illinois Central College.
And one of the hardest working retirees I know.
Without pay.
All duties as assigned. Thank you, Ms. King. Let's see. Oh, looks like Terry just hopped on. Terry Burnside, what's going on, brother? We are doing introductions. We've got a few guests on the line today. We have a representative from the police union, and we also have the assistant chief of police with us today. So we're doing brief introductions, brother.
Good. Thank you all. Good evening, everyone. My name is Terry Burnside. I wear many different hats, but I'm most proud of being a community activist in the community. So on front line, doing things in the community, just trying to make a difference.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Terry. Appreciate you, brother. Dr. Janet Zagardo, can you please introduce yourself, ma'am?
Hi, everybody. I'm Janet Zagardo. I am an at-large member of the committee also.
Awesome. Thank you. Chief Marion?
Okay, I'm sure our visitors know me. Lauren Marion, Chief of Police. I've been the chief since February of 18. On our side of it tonight, we have, for the members that did not hear, we have Assistant Chief Doug Theobald joining, and union member Saul Espinal as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chief. Appreciate that. Are they, I see Saul has his own line. Saul, do you want to introduce yourself, sir?
Saul Espinal, Peoria Police Officer, Union Rep for the Peoria Police Department. I'm a second shift East Bluff officer, and I'm originally from New York City.
Awesome. Thank you, Saul. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. And then Assistant Chief Doug, are you able to talk, sir? Do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Andre. The chief and I are sitting in the same room, so we've got masks on, so apologize if you, hopefully everybody can hear me all right. Doug Theobald, Assistant Chief, just started 28th year here in the city late August, so been here for a little bit.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Appreciate your service. And I believe last but not least, Mas Patel, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Everyone pretty much knows me by now. Mas Patel. I'm Assistant City Attorney for the City of Peoria.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much. So I believe that's everybody who is on the call. And again, we appreciate Assistant Chief here, and then also our representative from the police union. I think it's very important that we meet, regularly. You're more than welcome to come to our meetings so we can continue to keep building those relationships. I think that's very important when you think of police and community relations. So thank you so much for attending today. We really appreciate it. So now let's go ahead and move forward to our agenda this evening, and we'll start with our unfinished business. My first item that I want to discuss and just open it up for some general feedback. At our last meeting in September, we had Mr. Kenneth Bergeron from the Department of Justice that came and visited us. He spoke with us for about 30 minutes and kind of just gave us, some tips on how we can be effective based on our current construction, based off the ordinance and how we were drafted and the way we could be doing some things. So I just kind of wanted to open it up to the group for those who were able to either attend that meeting or maybe you watched the meeting on YouTube and were able to kind of catch that conversation. But does anybody have any general feedback based off the conversation from Mr. Bergeron at our last meeting? Did we feel that it was helpful? We can start there.
Yes.
Feel like it was helpful? I agree.
Yeah, I think it was helpful. It's so Andrew. I learned a lot.
Yeah, I did too. It was good to hear some other suggestions that he had, you know, for our committee, and we're going to talk about this under under unfinished business still on item C when we talk about our virtual zip code or town hall meetings, whatever we want to call those. But I think he stressed the importance of that we need to get out in the community. We need to use this as an opportunity to be a sounding board for the community in order for us to really move the needle forward. And that was something that a theme that I took from him. And I think that we all want to do that. We had some things in place that we wanted to do prior to COVID-19, but I think we realized that this is the current norm for the foreseeable future. And so we have to be innovative if we want to be effective as a committee. Any other feedback regarding the conversation? Was there anything that, I mean, let's just be candid, that you didn't like that he has said, or, you know, that might have maybe either was disappointing or deflating by any means? I mean, let's just have some honest conversation.
I mean, I think I was happy to see that he gave us some kind of marching orders on ideas and things to do, kind of pointing us in the right direction. Because it kind of feels like we were a ship with no sail, and he kind of gave us the marching orders to get some things started and get some things moving. So, and it definitely pointed out how far we have to go. That's definitely one thing I saw or heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, Chief. I think it was good to hear what we can do. I think we, at least, you know, just personally speaking, I think we know what we can't do, but it's, you know, I think we need to start focusing basically on what we can do the way we're currently constructed. And in the future, if we're able to evolve to do more, that's great. But until we get to that point, we need to at least be focusing on how we can start moving the ball down the field. Because right now we're on the 10-yard line and we got 90 yards of field to cross. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about y'all. I don't like being on the 10-yard line. We got to throw the ball. We got to do some audibles. We got to do something. So I agree. Any other discussion or general feedback before we move on?
Yeah, this is Lauren. I did like the way he explained it, and I think he was definitely middle ground. To be honest, I didn't know what to expect. But I think he gave fair, honest feedback and kind of let the committee know that, you know, they are a committee, not a commission, and gave a lot of good ideas for the committee to be out doing. You know, one of the things was the community survey. I think that was a good recommendation, as well as the, you know, to be an advisory committee to the chief, to have the community forums and stuff, to get that feedback. And I thought he cleared up some things and gave a good presentation on it.
Thank you, Chief. Without any further comments, we're going to go ahead and move on to unfinished business item B, and that is the subcommittee complaint policy draft. Christina, if you could share the screen of the draft, please. While she's doing that, I sent this out a few days ago. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review it so we can have some productive conversation around it. And that way we can either, you know, move forward with it, or if there's any suggestions, you know, we can discuss those tonight. We had a positive meeting. I believe it was last week or the week before last. My days are running into each other, about this draft. And, you know, myself and Chief Boone and Dr. Zagardo and Karen Wilson and Maz was on that call. And, you know, we just kind of had some dialogue, you know, based off of, you know, what we look like, what we want to do. Maz brought some great insight on, you know, what is in our purview, and brought that legal insight, which I think was very important. So I appreciate her taking some time as she was multitasking, moving, and providing feedback to us at the same time. So we appreciate you doing that. Christina, could you blow this up just a little bit? So this is the current draft. And, you know, by no means is this a blood oath or anything like that. One of the things that, you know, we honestly have the luxury to do is, you know, if this is voted and implemented, we can always make changes to this as we evolve. You know, if we, after we've, you know, fielded, you know, a few different cases, we might feel that, hey, we need to go back to our policy and amend some things. So I don't want us to necessarily feel like this is the book just being shut and this is what we are going to be using for the next 10 years. It'd be great if it's that thorough of a policy, but we all know with policy, after you start really executing that policy, there are going to be some opportunities to make amendments later on down the line. And so when you look at how the draft is currently, you know, curated here, if you go down, we copied and paste the actual ordinance, how it's referenced in the municipal code of the city of Peoria. If you click that hyperlink, it will take you directly to that code and you will see verbatim the ordinance of how we're constructed, the parameters around the committee, essentially how this committee is set to operate based off of the ordinance at that time. So I do want to stress that when we start going into our procedures, we are looking at procedures based off of how we're currently constructed. So I want us to keep that in mind. So I definitely, if you have not looked at the entire ordinance because I know that there's like small synopsis of the ordinance, but like if you go to like look at paragraph 2 and 3, I think it's very important to look at that. So as we are going down, I'll just go ahead and read the ordinance real fast. The Advisory Committee on Police and Community Relations hereby created for the purpose of advising the Chief of Police of the city, the mayor, and the city council on the matters concerned with improving police community relations and to provide an independent means of communication and assistance between the citizens of Peoria and the Peoria Police Department in order to foster a positive working relationship between the community and the police. In the event a complaint of the police, a complaint of police misconduct is brought to the attention of any member of the committee by any citizen, such member should encourage the citizen to bring any complaint to the police department and cooperate in the police investigation of it. The member shall not become involved in the original investigation of the complaint. In the event that the citizen is not satisfied with the outcome of the investigation of their complaint, the committee may review the matter with the complainant and may discuss the matter with the chief or make a non-binding recommendation to the chief. The chief shall apprise the committee of the nature and outcome of the citizen's complaint occurring during the prior reporting period and shall work together with the committee as necessary to improve and streamline the complaint process. The committee may review police-related policies and practices with the chief and make non-binding recommendations for improvement. It is not the intent of this section that the Advisory Committee on Police and Community Relations in any way infringe upon or duplicate the functions of the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, the Chief of Police, or the Equal Opportunity Officer of the City of Peoria. So now when we scroll down to essentially what our complaint review model is, and again, to provide context to, you know, our guests are on the phone, I feel that it was very important that we have a policy in place that when we field grievances on behalf of citizens, we have a playbook. We have not been fielding that many grievances to really put a playbook to test to see if it's the right offense to run. But at the end of the day, at least we have to have something. So that way, when we do get these, we're prepared, we can execute it. And if we feel that we need to make changes, we can, but at least we have something to guide us. And so when we're starting going down the complaint review model, these are some of the bullet points that we came up with. Now, did everybody get a chance to review this first off? Because if they did, I don't want to take up time going through each item. Is there anybody who did not get a chance to review this document? Because what I would like to do is honestly just open up the floor for discussion on the document. If everybody has reviewed it, then that way we can field questions and we can make more valuable use of our time. So I want to go ahead and just open the floor up for discussion around the document, questions, comments, concerns, reservations, suggestions at this time.
Andre, this is Lauren.
Yeah.
So under documentation, the first bullet under documentation, what I have a concern with, where it talks about officer conduct history for the specific situation regarding the complaint. What exactly are you thinking or looking towards when you say officer conduct history?
And so what I was thinking of, and those who were on that call, and please feel free to chime in, is essentially if what we're looking for is potentially trends. So if we've noticed that we might have the same officer and he or she has 9, 10 different complaints brought forth against them, that is, that's something there that we need to look into. And so, whether it's specific conduct history, we may not get, have access to that, but we might be able to say, hey, he or she has been reprimanded or has had 9 or 10 complaints brought to them within the last calendar year. So this is a subject of concern. Janice, Chief Boone, Ms. King, what anybody else on the call? Is that kind of what we were thinking about?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The only thing I could say, Andre, is, yes, is that when we hear complaints and we get the report from Chief Marion, we don't really get names. And so I'm not sure, unless somebody came to our committee, that we would have the name of officers who might have committed repeated offenses.
And so we would get so when you talk about documentation, we would get the police report. So we would know what officer was involved. And so then that's when we could see, okay, hey, does this officer has had multiple transgressions, over the last calendar year, or, is this an isolated event? I think that's just important data that we can, that we should have access to. And also, I think that on the flip side too, we could be keeping track of citizens. If we've had the same citizen come forth in the last, 6 months, and he or she has filed 12 complaints, is there something really there, or is there, maybe a deeper issue that we need to address with the citizen? Is there merit to all these claims that they're filing? I don't know. It all depends on the outcome of the investigation.
If I can chime in, whenever you get to the point, just let me know.
Yeah, no, sure. I was just actually just kind of giving you some feedback of where we were at, and yeah, you can go ahead and bounce back with us.
Sure. So a couple of concerns I have with that. One would be the relevance of it, in the sense that if an officer, like we have officers that work in certain units. So I'll give an example. A traffic officer or an officer that's working downtown that is going to have a lot more contact with people and dealing with individuals, compared to a lab officer that will have very seldom contact. So there may be a chance that one officer does have more complaints. I think one of the important aspects to look at would be to see if those complaints were sustained or not sustained. I think if you bring in every complaint that an officer has had on them, that a person may cast a early decision without giving the officer the benefit of the doubt and looking at the totality of that specific situation. So if somebody says, oh, wait a minute, this officer had 5 complaints over the last 6 months, somebody could jump to the conclusion that they have to be doing something wrong. But if you don't have the opportunity to look at those other complaints and know the circumstances around those other complaints, I think that the officer would be getting the short end of the deal on that. That's why I think that bringing in their conduct history it is not being fair to the officer on that. Does that kind of make sense?
Unless it's relevant.
Yeah, unless it's relevant to that.
Would Chief Boone, if we had complaints, wouldn't you be able to tell us if they were sustained or not?
Were you referring to Chief
I'm
Marion?
sorry, not Chief Boone, Chief Marion.
Yes.
I don't know. I guess I think we're presuming already that the conduct history is going to be negative. What if the conduct history is superlative?
That's true too, because that could be relevant to, you know, this officer has been on the force 3 years and never had a complaint, and you know, this is the first one, you know, so that's a good point too, Janice. And again, you know, conduct history for the specific situation regarding the complaint. So I think I was Assistant Chief who said, you know, I guess it's just based off the relevancy of it. You know, but I do think that it does have a purpose, long as it's like Assistant Chief said, it is relevant. And I definitely understand where you're coming from, Chief Marion. You know, because I would hope that an officer didn't have 5 complaints in a 6-month span, but also, you know, there's always, you know, multiple sides to every story as well too, you know, were they sustained and things of that nature. And I think that's going to be important for our subcommittees when they are meeting to review complaints, that we always do our best to have the most unbiased lens possible. Like, that's why we are in this position, in order to have that unbiased lens and to look at every specific situation in a unique lens. I think that's very important.
And I think also I would have to get advice from corporate or from legal counsel of, are we able to share personnel records outside of the department? That'd be a question for Moss and maybe corporation counsel.
No, so Chief, what we discussed in the subcommittee meeting is that the members that are on the subcommittee reviewing the complaint would have to come to the Peoria Police Department. I explained to them that the information wouldn't leave the room, whatever information, depending on the situation they are reviewing. The copies that they are reviewing are going to be watermarked, so it's going to be specific to that person, so that we can account for all of the information that they're reviewing. And if it's, say, video footage, they would have to review it and discuss it there. Essentially, we would be going into executive session while they're reviewing that specific complaint.
Right. I understand that part of the process, but I'm talking about even under the officer conduct history of releasing information out of an officer's personnel file. That's what I'm concerned about. Does the Personnel Records Act cover not releasing that information? I know there is a case that is tied up in the court system right now on discipline, but I'm looking towards whether we can even share their personal conduct out of the personnel file.
Right. For my conversation with Corporation Counsel, if it's related to that incident, she did not indicate that we could not share it in a closed setting. But if it makes you feel better, I can always follow up with her again and make sure.
Yeah, I would like a definite yes or no on that, just so that, because by no means do I want to violate any laws or acts that are out there.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. So Maz can double check on that. Outside of that, when we look at other documentation, as Maz stated, you know, those who would be on a subcommittee, you would have to, and that's something to prepare for. Like, you know, if we get a case and we say, hey, who all wants to be on the subcommittee, you know, we would have to come up with a date and time and orchestrate that with probably Ms. Kirby to get us a room at the Peoria Police Department, or however we want to do this. But we would physically have to go into the Peoria Police Department and review everything there. Nothing would be able to come with us. And so that's something that when you're thinking about serving on a subcommittee, that, you know, you're going to be prepared to do that. You would have to make sure that you block out enough time for us to review things and then have productive conversation at the Peoria Police Department. When we look at our time frame, you know, again, we will at least try to provide an update to the complainant within 30 days from the time they receive, just letting them know, at least a status report. Things, you know, we might be able to render a recommendation by then, or we might not, you know, it all depends. But I think just keeping people in the loop is very important. I think that's important. And then obviously we talked about at the end of the year, we just need to review, you know, do an annual review on how many complaints we fielded, you know, what were the outcomes of those complaints, you know, those recommendations that we made, and then monitor for potential patterns for citizens and officers. You know, I think that's very important too, just to make sure that if there's anything that sticks out to us, hey, we're having the same officer involved, or hey, we're having the same citizen involved, you know, that's something that we can bring forth. So based off of how the current draft is constructed, outside of Maz looking into the officer conduct history on behalf of Chief Marion again, are there any other questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions? So hearing none, did I hear somebody?
Yeah, this is Lauren again. I was just going to ask real quick. Would you mind if I shared this with the union so that they could just review it and understand it as well? Because Saul is on here, but he doesn't, I mean, other than just seeing it on the screen, you know, he wouldn't have an idea of what we're talking about with it. So I just wanted to make sure you're good if I shared it with the union.
Sure.
Chief, I would confirm with Corporation Counsel prior to doing that. So if we could have a conversation after this call.
Yep, no problem.
So obviously we there's potential for the union to review this, which you know, obviously we want to be transparent with them, and then we also want them to be transparent with us. I think that that's something that I would love to see out of this committee, is creating those relationships with the union as well too, so that way we can have a positive relationship. But based on how the draft is currently constructed, and those on this phone and on this committee, there's no additional questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, amendments, you know, anything. We're pretty solid as far as the draft is concerned, outside of Maz checking with Corporation Counsel regarding the officer personnel records. So, because my only concern now is if we have to wait on that, it's now deferring the approval of this draft until November. Because we wouldn't be able to take a vote electronically, correct, Christina? Like if she was able to get context on this, we wouldn't be able to take a vote electronically because of the Open Meetings Act, correct? Or Maz, can want somebody answer that?
We would have to be in a meeting. And it would have to be recorded. The vote would have to be recorded.
Could we do a special meeting?
You can.
We could do a special meeting.
It just has to be noticed up, just like these meetings are. So
how does the committee, and I know everybody is sensitive on time, I'm not about kicking the can down the road. You know what I mean? I mean, we've been kind of at this for the last like 3 months, and I get there's so many, and I'm glad that we're getting a lot of the feedback from legal and and Peoria Police Department and things of that nature. But would the committee be okay with potentially doing a special meeting to vote on this? And then literally it might be us hopping on a Zoom call for 5 minutes and voting on this in a week. I mean, is there any concerns around that?
Well, can I ask one question, Andre? Is there any reason we can't tentatively approve this right now? What is there anything preventing us from if everything goes through?
I mean, technically somebody could kick a motion off that we approve it as tentative, based off of the conversation that Maz has to have with corporate. I mean, that could be a motion that someone could kick off.
generally, Andre, if there are amendments that need to be made to a document, I'm just speaking as council currently operates and using them as a frame of reference, they hold over the vote to approve a specific document or act. So I would recommend waiting just to get approval. And then we can also make the document look nicer too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. This isn't, yeah, this, we got to make this a PDF and all types of stuff. Okay. Well, again, does anybody have any concerns with doing a special meeting? Are there any concerns around that? So,
No.
Okay. So hearing none, I will motion to defer the draft until we get feedback between Maz and corporate counsel on behalf of the concerns of police conduct records. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Christina, can you perform a roll call, please?
Yes, Andre Allen,
Yes.
Chief Boone,
Yes.
Shalandra Birch,
Yes.
Terry Burnside, Lorraine King,
Yes.
Chief Marion,
Yes.
Tyson Parks,
Yes.
Janet Zagardo.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina. So I will be on the lookout, Maz, for your update. You know how to find me. And then I'll reach out to the committee and we will get a special meeting on the docket as soon as we can and appropriately market it and be within the parameters of the Open Meetings Act and do all that stuff. So between myself, Maz, and Christina, we'll work out those logistics to ensure that we are performing within the the policies of committees and things of that nature. So let's go ahead now and let's talk about our virtual zip code meetings. This is something that came out of the conversation with Mr. Bergeron about how we need to have more access to the community. I know in the past we've done specific zip code meetings, and I hear that those went solid. Some also felt that they kind of turned into a bash fest, which, as someone who works in higher ed and performs focus groups for students, I always say no one says when the food is good, so we have to be prepared for that. But I think that there could be a lot of raw data that we can get from these groups that I think is important that we can bring back to our committee, that we can bring back to Chief Marion and the Peoria Police Department, that we can bring back to the union as well too. I think that can be very beneficial. And so what I want us to think about regarding the zip code meetings, I think it was Vice Chair Zagardo who was saying in our Zoom call meeting the week before last that maybe we should go to more of a, instead of just having zip code specific meetings, we just open them up to anybody within the city of Peoria at first, because one, if we're doing them virtually, there's no way to really geofence the 61615 and the 61614. And I mean, there's really no way to do that, you know? And so I think that it would be good just to, I mean, at this point, I just want to talk to somebody, guys. I mean, my expectations are pretty managed at this point. And so I'm not saying I don't care what zip code you're from, but at this point, I just want to talk to people, let people know that we are here, we're functioning, and we are a bridge builder between them and the Peoria Police Department. So what are our thoughts on just doing general town hall meetings at first? If we find that we're getting too many people hopping on the calls, which is a good problem to have, we can move forward with trying to find more of a filtered approach where we only have, you know, I don't know, so many people on the call, or we try to figure out a way to intentionally market to a certain group of the city. But, you know, is there any apprehension of us just opening it up to the city of Peoria and seeing what we get?
That'd be a good start. I mean, because we haven't done anything in a while that's gotten community involvement. So that'd be a good start.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about we would use either a personal Zoom account or, you know, there's Google Hangout as well. That could be an option that we can utilize. Maz, did you find out, do the meetings that we do outside of this standing meeting, like so these town hall meetings, do they need to be recorded?
Andre, that's where I was emailing you about, and we I didn't understand anyway, it doesn't matter. Can you explain to me the format of the actual meeting? Is it going to be a conversation with the citizens, or are you just sitting there listening to their comments?
I think it would be, and anybody can chime in on this, I think it would be a listening session. You know, letting them come into us and telling us, you know, things that are going good, things that are not going good, things that they're experiencing. I don't think we would use this platform as an opportunity to launch like a formal investigation, but I mean, someone could come to the meeting and say, hey, I'm having this issue with such officer, and I want to file a grievance against the Peoria Police Department or this officer. And then that would be the time where we would direct them to the form on the website, or you know, we can email them the form since we're in this virtual space, and then they could go through the formal process with the Peoria Police Department. And then depending on how that goes, if they want to come back through us, if they are not in agreement, if it's sustained or not sustained, then we would get re-involved in their situation.
Okay, so I'm assuming that it's going to be whoever can attend from the committee attends, and then whichever citizen is having or has a comment or a complaint to make would make it, and then the committee would discuss it with them then and there, or like have conversation about it with them.
Well, I mean, I think we would have some, and please hop in, team. I think that we wouldn't just look at them. Like if they said, hey, I felt that I'm being racially profiled by
Right.
officer such and such, and then we would talk to them, okay, well, why do you feel like that or whatever?
Right,
And then,
that was, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and then but then you know, I'm just saying, me personally, if they brought that to me, I would listen to them, and then I would say, okay, well, you need to go through do you know that there's a formal grievance process, and
Right.
this is how you go about that, and then we could direct them to that lane.
Or ask them more questions to get more information from them. So
Yeah.
what I assumed the process was going to be. Given such, it does have to be recorded according to the Open Meetings Act.
Okay. Do we have to have quorum of our committee at these meetings since it's going to be now under the Open Meeting Act?
I believe the Open Meetings Act applies to regardless of majority quorum or if you're going into a subcommittee type of format. So even if, say for example, the complaint process, if you were doing that complaint in a subcommittee model and say there were 4 members and according to your procedure, you said minimum 3 members, regardless of the fact, it would have to be recorded. But we can go into executive session and have it not be recorded officially. There would be minutes taken, but does that make sense?
Yeah, I know that the concern around recording, you know, that I brought up is there's a difference between running into Chief Boone at the Kroger's on Sterling and venting versus being on camera and being recorded. You know, and I'm just putting my mindset into someone who already maybe has a certain phobia with the Peoria Police Department or with the police in general.
Right.
So that was my only, that's like my I definitely understand the purpose of recording it because it protects everyone, because it's, you know, it's that documentation piece, which is very crucial for our citizens and also our police department. But that was my only concern, that if we tell people that the meetings are being recorded, they're gonna be like, bro, I ain't hopping on tape, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand, and we talked about that at the subcommittee meeting. The only problem is there's no way around the Open Meetings Act unless you have a very specific, like this is going to be citizen comment only, and you guys just sit there.
So Lorraine, I think you were.
Yeah, what we've done in the past is when people came in and had comments or complaints, you know, we took note of them then. We didn't try to resolve it at that time. We made note of it. In some instances, the chief was able to, maybe able to address it then, but most of the time we took the notes and followed up with it.
Okay.
You're just giving the citizens
and I,
voice.
oh.
Sorry, this is Tyson Parks. What it sounds like is you're just trying to build bridges and allow the citizens to feel that they have a voice, which I think is good because you're working both sides.
And also in a safe environment. And people, maybe if they didn't want their faces shown, they could make something in writing.
Right. And so there are ways, and I guess one of the positives given this situation regarding COVID is that people can wear masks, and if they want to just make a comment to you, they can identify themselves as someone else and then contact Andre if they don't feel comfortable giving their name and ask Andre to follow up.
And Andre, as I recall, we did not have a quorum at our other meetings. It was, you know, we kind of assigned people, tried to get them to volunteer, you know, our committee members to try to volunteer, but we did not have a quorum. And I don't think we tried to resolve anything right then and there. I think what we could do is just encourage people to get back in private just to avoid the whole taping issue. There's not really anything we can resolve anyway. So if that's what it takes to make people feel safe and protected, then, you know, maybe that's what we can do.
At the first 2 that we had, we did have quorums. I guess because it was the first, we had members of the press there as well as a couple of members from Peoria City Council as well.
At the ones that you all did, and obviously I'm not saying that we would try to resolve an issue at these meetings, but you know, did you all have any like dialogue with them? Like, for instance, if John Doe said, "Hey, I ran through a stop sign and you know, they searched my car without probable cause, and this, that, and the third." Did you all like ask any like probing questions to get more like out of them, or did you just say, "All right, thank you for sharing that with me. Now here's the complaint form. You can file that with the Peoria Police Department. If you don't like the outcome of that resolution, then you can come back to us"?
No, we didn't try to resolve it then. We took their complaints and tried to make notes and categorize them. And a lot of the people weren't looking to get back. They were just talking about issues that they'd had. And it was a forum where they could feel free to talk about it and wanted somebody to know where no one knew before, where they felt safe doing it.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't
Okay.
ask, we didn't ask, I mean, there were some questions asked, yes. And, you know, if we took their name, we could contact them later if we needed more information.
As I recall, Chief resolved some issues right on the spot, and it was very public and open, but, you know, that we have the opportunity to do something a little bit different.
Chief Marion, were you about to say something, sir?
Yes, sir. I would say if we could limit like a public comment, public speaking to maybe 5 minutes like city council is, otherwise, because depending on how many people that you have on there, and I mean, we don't want to be in a 5-hour meeting, I don't think, at least I don't. So maybe have some restrictions. And, you know, as far as identity, you know, like because of the cell reception that I have here in the station, I don't do video. So they can pop up without video being on if they wanted to, if they didn't want to reveal their identity.
Yeah, that's a good point as well too. So I think that, you know, we're in good shape. I mean, you know, that's good to know. So then that way, if someone wanted to keep their screen off, you know, and it was still recorded, you know, essentially they could, I mean, we would have no way of us even knowing they're giving us their real name. You know, they could be, hey, I'm John Doe and I want to just get this off my chest, and, you know, we listen or whatever. So, I mean, the recording thing isn't an issue though. So then that kind of brings my anxiety down a little bit about that. So I think we're in good shape there. As far as, you know, occurrence of these meetings, are we thinking monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly? What are we thinking, team?
Monthly would be good. I mean, especially if you get some stuff you want to kind of look into. I mean, you're going to need some time. But a lot of those things, you know, a lot of these complaints you're going to get, you can kind of weed out there. Because I remember the last time I was on this committee, and I think it was at City Hall, and we had somebody get up and talk about a traffic stop, and they felt that their rights had been violated, and it was because they felt their car was searched unjustly. And we listened. After the meeting, I went up to the person and I'm talking to him, and you know, I'm like, okay, you had a car full of people. Was there any marijuana smell in the car? Yeah, there was marijuana smell in the car. Did you smoke marijuana? Well, before we left, we smoked marijuana. Okay. And then they just have to be advised that, look, I can still search your vehicle because of X, Y, Z. And once they got that information, it's like, oh, okay. But we've had a meeting where, you know, somebody got up and got upset at the police and gave us a story that was 30 minutes long when they just didn't understand how the process works. So a lot of times you'll be able to swat stuff out by that. But like Chief Marion was said, you're going to get a lot of people that are going to give us a lot of stuff that, I mean, we could have a 5-hour meeting if we don't, you know, put a lot of parameters around it.
Yeah.
Now, what's the timetable?
Yeah, I love the 5 minute, you know, 5 minute or less. If we, I mean, again, we're just trying something new. We feel that people aren't either getting out everything they need to say, and we need to maybe go to 7 minutes. We can, you know, do that for maybe the meeting after that. But I think us having a format of monthly occurrences, 5 minute or less, speaking allowment. The meeting will be recorded, but you have the option to turn your video off. That's no big deal. That's completely up to you. And that's something that we could say, you know, ahead of time as like a housekeeping thing. You know, hey, you know, if you don't want to have your video on, you don't have to. It's completely up to you. So that sounds good.
You know, Andre, you run a pretty tight ship, and we could just tell them we're going to limit the meeting to 60 minutes. The first X, you know, was that 10 people, 11 people that sign in, get to talk. And the goal really is if they have a complaint, we lead them to the complaint form. I mean, the goal is to increase communication. So if, anybody that doesn't get in line, we know we're going to have another meeting next month. And I think 5 minutes is way more, plenty of time. And then they can just fill out a form. I mean, the goal is to let them think, that they can communicate with us. And I mean, I would be in favor of having an informal complaint, if they feel more comfortable sending it to us and then we transmit it to the police department or whatever. We haven't really talked about that, but people just want a chance to talk. And I think if they know they have another meeting coming up in a month, you just shut it down at 60 minutes. You're really good at that.
Okay, that sounds good as well. So obviously we have our standing meeting that meets the second Thursday of the month. So I'm trying to be sensitive to people's time. I don't want to have us have like 2 meetings in the same week. So, do we want to maybe stay on the Thursday format and maybe do the last Thursday of the month for these? Is there another day of the week that serves better? Or, do we want to send out I've never did is it called a doodle poll or whatever those polls are for availability? Do we want to do one of those? What are we thinking, team?
Well, when citizens want to address the council, they know it's on Tuesday night. And even though we had ours on Saturday, I think we could probably keep it on Thursday. Maybe once in a while, we might want to have one on Saturday.
Just to get it going, we could stick with Thursdays because since that's just how we normally meet. And then, but like you said, Ms. King, we could throw an audible of a Saturday in the future. I'm not against that. Okay, no, that sounds good. What I'm going to do, I have a meeting next Wednesday with Ms. Stacy Peterson from the city of Peoria, and we're going to talk about advertising of our meetings and what suggestions she may have, whether that's putting the list of these meetings on the website or the Facebook page or email listserv, carrier pigeon, whatever she feels that is appropriate to help us get the word out. I think that's very important. And then after I have that meeting, we can, if that meeting's on, let's see, that meeting is next Wednesday.
Andre, could I hop on that meeting with you too?
Yeah, sure. I can, I'll shoot you the invite. So if we're looking, do we want to try to squeeze one in October or do we want to start fresh in November, team? What are we thinking?
Kind of tight.
October is, Halloween's tomorrow. So I feel you. Being sensitive.
Next month would be good.
Yeah. Now, when I look at the calendar for next month, we've got to keep in mind. So we have our advisory committee meeting on the 12th of November. The 26th is, I believe is that Thanksgiving? Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
That's Thanksgiving. Wow. So, but we could put something out there for the 19th of November. That gives us 2 weeks in November to publicize it. That allows us maybe on the 12th at our next advisory committee meeting to get our bearings, in a row for this meeting on the 19th. Do we want to shoot for November 19th? That's a Thursday.
I'm not able to meet on the 19th because I have a standing board meeting on the 3rd Thursday.
Okay. Ain't gonna be no party without Miss King. And then the 5th, do you want to shoot for November 5th, the week before our advisory committee? Does anybody have any reservations about November 5th?
I think we're different than the city council, and I'm not, I guess we can talk to Stacy about this, but I'm not sure we need to do it on the same night of the week each month. It might even be advantageous to people who have, different schedules if it wasn't on the same night. Like Lorraine just said, she's got a meeting on that Thursday. So I guess until we get into the groove, I'm not sure that it matters that we do it on the same night of the week, except it might wreak havoc with our own members. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I was selfishly looking at Thursdays, just because, like, for whatever reason, Wednesdays are always like board meeting. Like, I don't know, like, seems like every board I'm on, they always meet on Wednesday evenings, which is tough.
Bible study for me.
Okay, and yeah, so you have Bible study.
Outstanding.
When do we have the first one on a Saturday? The very first one.
Saturdays are kind of tough for me because I do my radio show at 12. But I mean, sometimes I pre-record though. But I guess, I mean, if I know that ahead of time, I can always pre-record. I mean, we could. Do we think that people would be? I mean, we could try November 7th. That's Saturday. I mean, what are our thoughts on that?
You could pitch the idea to Stacy, see what she thinks about it as well.
Yeah, I want to bring a date. I want to bring like a concrete date to her, so that way, like, if she's like, "Hey, yeah, I'll promote it for you guys," we're like, "All right, bam." I could just come back to the committee like, "Hey, we're meeting November 7th," and then we could work with, Christina and Stacy and getting it publicized and doing what we need to do to stay within the parameters of the Opens Meeting Act. So, is Saturday, November 7th? Is that okay for people? Are we?
What time?
We can. Do we want to do? You want to do 10 a.m.? Is that too early? You want to do after a Saturday afternoon?
I'd rather do it in the morning and get it over with. Who wants to tie up that Saturday afternoon?
You
Right.
heard me?
Yeah, earlier the
Yeah.
better for me.
Yeah. Chief Marion, how's your schedule on Saturdays as far as, like, potentially being able to hop on, or Assistant Chief, if you wanted to hop on, I mean, would a Saturday morning work for you?
Man, we can make it work. Yeah, I think everybody here works during the week and values their time off, but we'll make it work. A representative from the command staff will be there.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I won't be able to come at that time on that particular Saturday. But if it happens again, I will. But I won't be in the state, so I won't be able to attend that one.
Okay.
Andre,
Yeah.
just to make a point here, if you look at all of the other commissions and committees that the city does have, I don't believe any of them meet on Saturdays. I know that this is probably something you're considering because people work during the weekdays, so you want to make it more available to the citizens of Peoria. But I don't have 100% answer for you if you can or cannot, but Stacy should know, and I could probably look to make sure.
Okay, what if we, I'm not gonna lie, I do love my weekends.
It's fair.
Just being 100. I'm about the city, but I'm about the community, but I'm about my Saturday too. What if we backtrack to November 5th on that Thursday? Again, we could do a Thursday evening. We could promote it. We could do a 5:30 to 6:30 and just see how it goes.
That's better for me.
How does Thursday, November 5th work for you all?
No, it work.
Dr. Zagardo.
Works for me. I got nothing on my schedule at all. So if you give me enough notice, I can put anything on it.
Chief Boone.
Yeah, I don't have anything currently.
Stilandra.
I'm going to be gone that whole week for a conference.
Oh, okay. You getting your professional development on. I ain't mad at you. Okay. Well, what we'll do is we'll move forward with the November 5th. And let's do 5:30 to 6:30. I'll talk when me and Janice meet with Miss Peters next week, or Stacy next week, excuse me. We will say that this is our suggested date. And if she's cool with us being able to roll that out, like she can, we can get it marketed and stuff too, then that's what we'll confirm with the committee after that meeting. So I'm gonna put that down. Okay, thanks team. I appreciate it. All right, we're doing this. All right, no, that sounds good. All right. And then I know Mr. Burnside, he's not on anymore. That was an agenda item that he had brought to us via email, I think back in August. And so I just kind of put that on there, but I'll go ahead and remove that for next time. When we go to new business, I wanted to add this to the agenda because I know that we all, all of us who are in this Facebook world saw the conversation around the recent police training that was at PHA site, the Taft Homes. My email blew up about it. People reaching out to me about it, and you as committee members of this advisory committee might have got reached out on too. So I just wanted to give this an opportunity for Chief Marion to kind of explain, what happened around that, some context around that. I just think that would be really good for the committee to know, kind of what goes into the decision making when picking training sites and stuff too. So that way, as a committee, when we get approached with these different things, we can at least have some context around it. So Chief Marion, would you be able to kind of provide us some context of what occurred with that particular situation?
Yep, absolutely. So we have what's called special response team. A lot of people, there's special weapons and tactics. So officers that are trained for not your everyday police scenario. For example, high-risk search warrants, hostage situation, barricaded subject situation, extreme measures. They are some of the best trained officers on the police department in tactics. And one of the things that they do, and I'll turn some of this over to Assistant Chief Theobald, because he is a member of the team for 20 plus years and has held every position on the team. But I'll try to explain the best I can and see if he wants to add anything. But so training, did it freeze up? Oh, okay.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. So training is essential for a team of that caliber and that nature. So one of the things we do is try to get training sites all over the city. We will have people contact the police department and say, hey, we're getting ready to demolish this building. Do you want to use it to train? There are times that we'll reach out to places and see if we can use their place to train. To give you an idea of the different places that we have trained, as you mentioned, the Taft a couple weeks ago. That was actually the 4th time that we had trained there. And we trained in the vacant buildings, the ones that are being set to be torn down. We trained in the Harrison. We trained at Villa Bordeaux, the apartments across from Proctor Hospital up on North Knoxville. We trained at Bergner's in Sheridan Village before that was torn down. We've trained at the Civic Center, at the Northwoods Mall, the schools, all over the city of Peoria. Most recently, I don't know if you saw the news article last night where OSF contacted us and said, hey, we got a vacant building up here on Armstrong, and you can use that building to train. So for the SRT operators, to be able to train in different situations, an example would be when you look at large complex housing areas, so Villa Bordeaux, the Taft, different tactics can be employed, and that's what they look at. We have used houses before, houses that have set to be demolished. So basically we take the opportunity to train because, number one, if we don't train, that's when people get hurt. And number two, it's reliant upon the police department to train those individuals. So if we don't train, then the department can be held to a standard of failure to train and get in trouble that way too. So Hopefully that kind of explains. Well, let me touch on it real quick. So with the Taft, as I mentioned, that was the 4th time that we've trained in the Taft. The only reason that we put a press release out is because we were going to use some of the devices that the team uses. And so we put a press release out, so if people in the area had heard loud bangs, noises, that they wouldn't call in and think that there was something going on when it was a police training. PHA management was notified, and we got permission from the property manager to use those devices on that training day. And just like when we use Sheridan Village and Villa Bordeaux, we've used those same tools at those locations as well. So it's more of the opportunity to train than, the location was provided. So we use that as a location. I'll turn it over to Assistant Chief, see if he wants to add anything, and then turn it back over to you.
Yeah, and I'm open for questions too, if you have any. I think the chief pretty detailed in that. Most of the time over the course of my career, when the sites they're somewhat hard to come by, and most of it has to do because trying to find something that's closed up, on certain days and so forth, because obviously you don't want to have that. Do a business, Northwoods Mall as an example. When we've trained out there before, we'll do it on a Sunday when they close early or something like along those lines. So usually when it comes to finding sites, it's availability issue. And in reference to an apartment complex, those are few and far behind, because just like Villa Bordeaux, they don't actually demo entire sites like that very often. So in this particular case, it was just availability issue of them knowing that portion of the TAF was going to get remodeled, tore down, what have you, and then that's when they took that opportunity to train there. So it wasn't specific to that area; it was just specific to the availability of those buildings. Over the course of the years that I've dealt with this stuff, I will say, I don't have to get too much into the weeds on this, but it's different training and or operating in apartment complexes than it is single resident homes. So they took that opportunity to train there that day.
And I will add, as well as so prior to the training, the sergeant, one of the team leaders of the team, did go down to the Taft and knock on doors of the residents that were close, which I don't know if you haven't been down in the Taft over the past couple months, a large portion of the Taft is closed down, basically from Green Street all the way over to Eaton. Most of those buildings are vacant. There are still a couple of residents that live there, and the sergeant did go there and knock on the doors. And actually, the people that he spoke to, one tenant said, he explained what they'd be doing and what was going on, and they're like, "Oh, cool! Can I bring my kids to watch?" I mean, they were excited to watch it. So I did get some of the emails that you've talked about, and one of the things I will self-admit up front is that we did not take into consideration that with e-learning going on, that it was a e-learning day, and that was a mistake on our part, and I'll take full responsibility for that. But some of the comments of that the police just use that area as an intimidation factor, I cannot more than 100% disagree with that. I think the assistant chief explained how and why that we trained there. So I'll turn it over and open it up for questions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that context. That was definitely good context to have of why you pick particular sites, and it's not necessarily an isolated event, because that was some of the things that I heard. They only do these trainings in the Tab. They only do these trainings in the Harrison, and so it was good to have that context. Not to rush things. We have about 6 minutes left of this meeting. But does anybody have any follow-up questions regarding this topic for the chief or the assistant chief?
I have
Chief,
something, but not on that topic.
Pastor Parks, did you have
Yeah.
something on this particular topic?
yeah, I just wanted to make sure Chief Marion is very well aware of it. That communication is key, especially when you're looking at perception as well. You don't want the police to be perceived in a negative light. There is issues that plague our society right now, and so we've got to use every opportunity and every avenue that we can to continue to be bridge builders. Chief Marion's very good with that. The assistant chief, this is my first time meeting and hearing him, but it's good that you're getting the police and your staff involved in these meetings. That's what's going to help with community relations. And then we can go back and tell our constituents as well that this perception is misguided in some areas, and then especially when you provide the proper context. But this is an advocacy as well, so it works both ways. But Chief Marion, at least you were admitted that you couldn't disagree with the way it was perceived. So I think that that's the mark of a great leader. So that's what I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with those remarks.
Yeah. Thank you, Pastor. Ms. King, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I agree with those remarks, but if there's nothing else on the agenda, I did have something to say positive.
Well, before we get to that, Chief, did you have any other updates under general police updates? I know that I did ask you to see if you could look into any of there were some concerns around impounding at our last meeting that were brought forth in a citizen's address. Do you have any insight on that you can provide today, or do you feel that we need to potentially defer that to our next meeting?
With the time constraint, Andre, can we defer it to the next meeting? Because it's probably a longer conversation.
Okay. And for those who weren't at our last meeting, I believe Christina, actually, she did forward that citizen address that we received. So you can look back at that. But is essentially, Chief Marion I asked him if he could look at a time frame of like the last 2 months of impounds of cars, and maybe provide some demographic information as well too, because I know there were some concerns based off of that citizen's address comment, and also from our committee to ensure that clubs such as Status and Dream, which cater predominantly to the African American community, are being treated and policed the same as your Diesels, your what's the other one called, Berlin, and I'm old now, I don't go out no more, guys. Oryx, you know what I mean. But that's what we were looking at. So Chief, I appreciate that, and we'll put that under unfinished business for our next meeting. Did you have any other updates that you wanted to give us real fast?
Yes, sir. So a couple things. One, we did swear in 9 new recruits on Monday. Out of the 9, we have 5 minority officers, 3 African-American female, 3 African-American males, 1 African-American female, and 1 Asian male. They are set to go to the academy on Sunday. Then I looked into because there was a request last time for the Citizens Police Academy. So we looked at putting on a shortened version of the police academy, and we could do a 5-week academy, which is 1 day per week from 6 to 9 p.m. And I'm going to have to probably look at a different day because from Reverend Parks and yourself said that you have Wednesdays that are tied up. We initially looked at starting at October 21st and going for the 5 consecutive Wednesdays, except for the week of Veterans Day. We would make that on Thursday the 12th. So I want to get everybody that has not been through the Citizens Police Academy exposed to that, because I think it also give you insight, especially before the subcommittee starts reviewing cases and stuff, that to give you an opportunity to go through that. So then we did have, I know Chief Boone was there with me on it. On September 26th, we had the, and actually saw Andre there as I was leaving, the community basketball game at the Carver Center. I thought it was a great event, great turnout, and we had a really good time there. So with that, that is what I have. So if I can get some feedback on the Citizens Police Academy, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think longest, like Wednesdays are just kind of just my trouble days. You know, I think honestly, like a Tuesday would be the best for me. I could potentially do a Monday, because you said it's only going to be once a month, sir?
Once a week.
Once a week for a month straight.
Yeah, 5 weeks. Yeah, once a week for 5 weeks straight to get you through all of the different topics.
Okay, so yeah, it would be, and this would be 6 to 9.
Yep, 6 to 9, and we could probably do Monday nights if Monday nights worked for everybody.
Yeah, I could do Monday or Tuesday. Would probably be the better day. Anybody else that would like to participate?
I wouldn't mind doing a review.
Look at you. Anyone else?
I'd like to be there too. I've never been through it. That's just me on legal. Just out of curiosity, if that's okay, Chief.
No, absolutely. We'd like to have you participate, not just observe, Moss. You got to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to fill in.
I'll try
I think
to
I
have
missed. I missed one of the best ones, so I'd just like to fill in the ones I missed.
Dr. Zagardo and Pastor Parks, would Monday or Tuesday, is there a preferred day that would work better for you, or just kind of depends on schedule?
Yeah, you guys figure it out, and I'll make it work. You know, if I know soon enough in advance, I can make almost anything work. So you guys figure that out.
And as I've said before, sometimes my schedule is dictated to me. So Monday and Tuesdays right now, I have meetings, but I can always make an adjustment. So
Okay. So Chief, you know, just kind of, I know you were making an audible from Wednesday, which I appreciate. You just kind of see if that Monday or that reoccurring Tuesday works best for you and your team, and then just shoot that message out to the committee when you plan on starting up, and we'll attend those.
Sounds good. And like I said, I would like to start up probably the 3rd week in October. So in a couple weeks, we'll get that started. And if there's no objection, the pastors leadership group, there's several new pastors involved in that. If the committee has no objections, I'd like to invite some of them, because this is pretty manpower intensive to put this on. So the more people that we can get through, the more worth our time it is.
Yeah, I think the more the merrier, you know. So yeah, you can definitely invite them. That's fine.
All righty. Thank you. That's all I have.
No, that sounds good. I know we're 2 minutes over. We're in overtime right now, but we're at citizens' opportunity to address the committee. Christina, did anybody send anything in?
I did not receive anything.
Okay. And then item for the good of the cause. Ms. King, I know you had a comment you wanted to share.
Yes, I did. This is the 3rd year that I've been doing write-ups for community leaders who are receiving awards from the NAACP. And I'd just like you all to know that even though it's a coincidence, this is the 3rd year, and the 1st year was police officer, the 2nd year retired police officer, and this year is Chief Marion Boone. He's receiving the Courage Award, and his courage is kind of a different kind of courage. you've heard about the protests across the nation where people are talking about having social workers get involved, to handle some of the issues. But I just want you to know that Chief Boone has already initiated that as a safety administrator in the Peoria Public Schools, that he's asked his officers to focus on social emotional needs of children. So we would be having a banquet to commemorate these award winners. However, we won't this year, but it will be on Facebook on Saturday, October 24th. And you can read the entire write-up, but he is receiving the John H. Gwynn Jr. Courage Award. And I thought you all would be interested to know that.
Oh, congratulations, Chief Boone. Hey, clap it up.
He'll be
Yes.
receiving a nice little trophy.
Okay, cool. Hey, well,
Thank you very much. Thank you. I
Yeah, it's
really
good.
appreciate it.
Job
Much
well
appreciated.
done. Congratulations.
well earned and well deserved, my brother. Good stuff.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, definitely. If you all do it through Facebook, I'll definitely look out for that and want to stream that live. And if y'all do a small ceremony or something, if I can pull up, I'll try to, schedule permitting. But congratulations, Chief Boone. We appreciate everything you do for our students in Peoria Public Schools and what you're doing with your resource officers and everything. Is just, you're a trailblazer, man. So keep it up.
And that's much
Thank
more
you.
powerful because he's been very open on Facebook, about the challenges that he faced when he was a young kid and how he overcame them. And he challenges the kids that he interacts with to do the same. So I think it's that much more powerful.
Yep,
So
I
it makes
agree.
him courageous.
I agree. So yeah, congratulations again, sir. And I hope Danny Green plays better for you tomorrow so your Lakers can bring it home.
And you'll have to go online to get the other award winners.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank
Any
you.
other, thank you for sharing that, Ms. King. Any other items for the good of the cause? All right. Well, hearing none, I would like to seek a motion for adjournment at 7:06. Y'all want to leave?
Second.
So moved.
Moved by Pastor Parks and second by Ms. King. And Ms. Christina, if you want to perform our roll call, please, we will get up out of here.
Andre Allen,
Yes.
Chief Boone,
Yes.
Shalandra Birch,
Yes.
Maureen King,
Yes.
Chief Marion,
Yes.
Tyson Parks,
Yes.
and Janet Zagardo.
Yes, and congratulations.
Yep.
Thank you,
I
Janet.
love ended on a positive note. Well, you all, great productive meeting. I think we definitely are getting the wheels turning in the right direction. Thank you so much to Assistant Chief Doug for pulling up today, and then our representative Saul from the police union as well too. I definitely look forward to meeting you gentlemen in person or for coffee or something. So feel free to reach out to me or anyone from the committee so we can continue to foster these relationships. Yep. Without anything else, you all have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Good
it.
night.
God bless all.
God bless.